Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Daring AF Summit. And today I have Tanya Lopez, who's one of my dear friends that I've met here in Bali. I'm really excited to have this conversation with her and for you guys to get her gifts and her messages and her codes that she really does a great job at giving the world. So before we get started, for all the new people that just signed up and the new people that are watching, my name is Veronica Kalinis, and I am a facilitator, a coach for women, helping women just be more vulnerable, create deeper connections, and take off the armor around their hearts. And I lead workshops and summits like this and coaching programs for women. So I created this summit because I really want to highlight badass leaders, creative thinkers, entrepreneurs who are out there living a daring as fuck life. So Tanya is definitely one of them. And, what we've really been doing in the summit is talking about the challenges and the messes that, we've made along the way in order to make our dreams come true, or, loving and accepting parts of ourselves that, we didn't think were possible. So what I love about Tanya today is that she's going to talk about like how she took a risk and she left the world's greatest job to really live a life that's authentic to her. And, even though, things looked really good on paper in parts of her life, she decided to, just be courageous and, keep following her heart. So Tanya, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello. Thank you, Veronica, for having me. I'm a huge fan of you and your work. And so it's a great honor to be chatting about what we are and being brave and taking risks and following your heart and designing your life beautifully and intentionally. So yes, thank you for having me. For those who don't know me, my name is Tanya Lopez. As Veronica mentioned, actually, I don't know if you mentioned this, but I'm an experience designer and event strategist. So I've been designing, creating transformational events and experiences all around the world for the past 10 years plus. Today, I consult impact-driven entrepreneurs and coaches on how to create their own magical, profitable events and experiences in the personal growth space. And I am also a certified coach as well. So I also work with female entrepreneurs on creating a deeper connection with themselves and really intentionally designing a life and business as sacred.
I love that. And thank you for mentioning that, because I knew you would say it more eloquently.
No worries.
So my first question that I've been asking some of the speakers before we start is, when was a time when you had to be really brave? And what did you learn from it?
Gosh, I would say, as you already mentioned, there's been a few times in my life, particularly around my career, where it's like it would seem that I was like in such a great place, in such a great position. And it's happened a few times, like once when I was like really crushing it in corporate America. I was like making six figures, working for companies like Nike. I was like the spokesperson for Nike, working with huge artists and athletes and celebrities. And then when I was working for Mind Valley as well, I had won this contest for the world's most awesome job. And so it was like seemingly I had this amazing thing, and yet there was something inside of me. There was like this inner knowing, this inner voice telling me that it was time for something else, telling me that it was time to leave, that it was time to take the being at this crossroad and taking the scarier route, like the one that seemingly was less stable, less secure, that was different from what I had been doing until that point. And like, it was like the rational, logical mind would say like, but this option is what makes sense, right? And then there was like this feeling of like, yeah, but for some reason, like my heart, my intuition is telling me to go that way. And so that's what comes to mind for me is like, it seemed really risky at the time to take that option. That was the unknown, right? Like literally both of those times, I didn't know what I was leaving for. I just knew that there was something else that wasn't clear to me at that time. And so this crossroad of choosing the unknown as opposed to the known and like the stability, I would say are times that I had to be brave, to just kind of leap into the unknown.
Yeah. I love that. Like what has leaping into the unknown has shown you, has given you?
So much. Like I mean, it's like a famous quote or whatever, but it's like when you leap, trusting that that net will appear, right? And so at the time for me, it's felt like I'm just jumping into a void and I'm just going to free fall and I don't know what's there, if the universe is going to catch me. And what I found is when I take that risk, when I follow my heart, even if like the heart is just saying like leave, and you don't know like but to where? Where am I going to go? What am I going to do next? And you don't have those answers, but you just follow that voice. Like what I've found and what I've learned is that those next steps appear and that you are caught and you are held, and that it works out fine. But it's like taking that jump from the cliff into the void, and just having that trust. But like in my experiences, it's worked out, and maybe it doesn't always work out exactly as you think, but it works out. It leads to something that you end up feeling like, oh yeah, this is why I made this, because this
Right.
was my path and this was my destiny, even though I didn't know it.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Totally, totally. And I'm sure our listeners who are watching can relate to that. Like, or
Mhm,
either they have taken steps to dive into the unknown, or
mhm,
they know that there's something out there for them if they were to have the courage to leap into the
mhm,
unknown. And I love that you worked for Mind Valley, and you were you were the event coordinator for creating these epic events all over the world. Like if you're
mhm,
watching and if you don't know what Mind Valley is this community, just of people who are like thought leaders, entrepreneurs, creative entrepreneurs and visionaries, leading these big events all over the world. And they would be these big summits and parties. And so Tanya helped organize all of that, or she was a
mhm.
big part in organizing that.
Yeah.
And it looks like, and like to me, I look at Mind Valley and like, wow, I want to be on Mind Valley, or I want to be like, that's a aspiration that I have. And,
Mhm,
Tanya decided to leave Mind Valley and start her own career, like, and start her own path
mhm,
by taking what she's learned from what she did at Mind Valley, and really trusting herself to
mhm.
create a life that's true to her as well. So can you speak more to that, and like what were the messes that were made, and the fears, and the steps that you took to really overcome that, and be where you are right now?
Yeah, for sure. And actually, I would like to share a little story of how I ended up at Mind Valley as well, because that in itself was also like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I had just started my own business. I was working in Miami. I created a PR and social media consulting company, and I thought this was like my dream. It was like my own business, and I did it because I wanted freedom and flexibility, and I wanted to, yeah, I basically wanted to be my own boss. And I ended up kind of jumping into it, but not super intentionally. And what ended up happening was I just got like consumed in clients and work and projects. And I ended up kind of being a slave to my own business. I was like working around the clock, and I was even taking on clients and projects that were not in deep alignment with me, and then feeling like just uninspired by the work. a lot of entrepreneurs, I think, find themselves in this place of like, and this also speaks to your question of like making mistakes, right? Is like, wait a minute, I did this because I wanted freedom and flexibility. I wanted to create my own schedule and I wanted to be able to travel and, all this stuff. And what I learned in that is I ended up being a slave to my business. I was prioritizing clients and income, but not necessarily work that really excited me. And
Yeah.
so I just found myself like working around the clock. And I kind of had this like almost like nervous breakdown one day where I was driving in the car in Miami. I was like going from one client meeting to another. I was stuck in traffic and I was giving a presentation on my computer in my car while tethering to my phone. Like it was just crazy. And I'm like, this is too much. It's just too much. And then like literally, so what I did was I ended up cutting off my number one, my biggest paying client at that time because I just was not feeling it. And it was really scary to do this because it was like, this is like 80% of my income, but I'm just not enjoying this. I'm not looking forward to it. There's not a good vibe there. So I told them that I was like going to end that project. Which took a lot of courage. And literally, like 3 days later, I saw this ad on Facebook for the world's most awesome job. And I wasn't looking for a job, I had just like created my own business and thought like this was where I wanted to be. And I clicked on it just out of curiosity. And it took me to like a Mind Valley sales page. And I had never even heard of Mind Valley. So Mind Valley is one of the biggest companies in personal growth and development. I had never heard of it, but I saw this video and it was like, describing this role of events director and traveling around the world and organizing this event for entrepreneurs interested in personal growth. And I literally got chills. My heart was beating fast. Like it was like I felt a full fuck yes in my body in that moment. Like there was no doubt. It was like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what this company is, but like I need to apply for this because I feel it in my body. And you had to do this video cover letter. And then so I sent off this video cover letter and then I found out that the job was based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I had never been there. So, but I just knew that feeling in my body. And so I ended up waking up the next morning and having an email from the head of HR saying like, we want to speak with you right away for this position. Long story short, I ended up, closing out my business, telling all my clients I was moving to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, putting my brand new BMW on swap a lease, getting rid of my house on the water in Miami. Like these were all crazy things for a company I had never even heard of. Like Mind Valley is a very big name now, but at the time, like I hadn't heard of this. And I had sleepless nights, like thinking like, what am I doing? Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Was this a huge mistake? Like second guessing myself, doubting myself, like all kinds of things. And, the thing that I kept coming back to was like that feeling of knowing, right? Like that inner voice, that excitement, those chills that I got on my body of like, no, there's something there. And so I took that risk. I made that gamble. I moved to a country that I had never been to, literally across the world, working for a company I never heard of. And I literally ended up finding my absolute passion, which was creating transformational events and experiences. Had I not taken that risk, had I not taken that gamble, I wouldn't have found this. And so that for me was a really great lesson of like, when you follow that excitement, like things just, there's something there for you in that. So anyway, like now I just wanted to tell that because that story is also like a great example of just like,
So
taking a risk and having it pay off and being brave and really paying attention to that inner voice and that part of you that just knows.
I love
So
it.
anyway, yeah. So anyway, I get to Mind Valley. I worked for them for 6 years as head of events. I was literally traveling all over the world, organizing events all over the world. People were walking away saying that event and experience was one of the best experiences of their life. So now I was like really in a position where I was like making an impact. I was literally like helping to positively impact and change people's lives. I was combining it with my biggest travel of like my biggest passion of travel. And so it was like all of my passions, like everything just kind of came together and it all clicked for me. And I'm super proud of what I was able to accomplish there. We expanded to Europe and Asia and blew like profits and ratings out of the water. And then after 6 years of organizing, A Fest and being the head of events for Mind Valley, it was like, again, I had this voice of like, there's something else there. It's time for something new. But it was terrifying to me because it was like, and also like this had become my identity, like working with Mind Valley and being the head of events for Mind Valley and the creative director for A-Fest. Like it had really become like who I was in a way. So it was kind of scary to think of like, well, who am I without that? Who am I when I step away from that? And like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do for work? Where am I going to live? Like I had so many questions. But it was just this inner knowing and this inner voice that kept getting stronger and stronger. And so what I ended up realizing at this point was, I had been such a hustler. Like I started working 2 jobs when I was 15 years old and I never stopped. Like I literally never stopped until I was leaving Mind Valley. I had taken one break a few years prior, but it was like I couldn't even enjoy that break because I was so worried about like getting back to work. And so what I realized was it was time to just give myself space, like time and space, and to really like wipe the slate clean and to not do anything, like I had been hustling so hard and working so hard all the time that it's like, what am I? Who am I? If I just stop and I just be and then eventually I can create my next idea or my next business from that place. But first, let me get to this place of just emptiness and a blank canvas, right? And so that's what I decided to gift myself. Was I told myself I was going to give myself 6 months of like not even thinking about work. I came to Bali because Bali is sort of like it's like my eat, pray, love place. It's like a place that I come to like nourish my soul and to just calm down and slow down. And so I came to Bali and literally like I didn't do anything for 6 months. Like I had no plan. There was no to-do list. I would go to yoga. I would go to ecstatic dance. I would chill. I got really into like creating a morning practice. And my whole intention was just really reconnecting with myself, to get out of hustle mode, to get more like reconnect with my femininity as well. I realized like, holy shit, I've been completely in like my masculine for the past 10 years, like super career driven, achievement driven, results driven. And so I just started this whole journey of like slowing down, reconnecting with my femininity, with myself, with my heart. And that's what really was what I focused on after leaving Mind Valley. And it also made that transition a little bit more easy too, because it was like, okay, it's time to just be. I don't need to know what the next thing is. I can just be and trust that when I give myself the space, it will come to me and I will find what that is. So that's a little bit about that transition.
Love that. Love it. Yeah. I love that you talked about spaciousness, and I can really relate because I come from New York. I also worked from when I was 14, like the day I can get a job. I worked in a pizzeria for 5 years, and I worked
my first job was at a pizzeria as well.
Can you fold boxes?
I was a Domino's phone girl and a waitress at another pizzeria. I had 2 pizzeria jobs.
Nice. Yeah. I worked in restaurants for a long time. I was always a bartender, I was going to school full time, and then internships, and like always like in hustle, like always in this scarcity survival place, because that's how I was brought up. That was my conditioning, right? Like believing that if you don't do this, it won't come, right? Or no, which is true. We do have to take action on what we want, but I was constantly working and hustling and growing and changing. And I remember like the first time I went to Costa Rica for a month, I quit my job in corporate and I did a yoga teacher training. And that was huge for me. Like I've never done anything like that before. And that was the start of me understanding spaciousness and time. And then I went back into hustle mode for sure. Like then I went back to New York City, and then I went, like 2 years of hustle. But then that's when I created Vulnerable as Fuck. And then that began my journey of like, oh, whoa, this is my mission. This is the thing I'm good at. Yoga, like when I did my yoga teacher training, that was like my start of like trying to figure out what it was that I want. And then now I go back to like some of my journals and my yoga teacher training book actually. And I kept writing vulnerability was like always my theme.
Wow.
So then like, it's funny that 2 years later, then of course that's what I created my business doing. And I'm always getting nailed in that area. So
in retrospect, we can see that all of these things, like your yoga teacher training, they were all like steps along the way to get us where we are now, right? We don't see it at the moment, but later we can.
Exactly. So I love that. And just for anybody who's watching, if you have a similar experience, or if you have questions for Tanya about like what was the thing that kept her going, and like how did she shift, and what does she do when she gave herself space and time, put that in the chat. And what steps could you give someone who wants to, create deeper connection with themselves, or create deeper connection with, their purpose?
Yeah, this was a question that I was asking myself for a while, of like, how do I reconnect with myself, with my heart, like what I truly want? And I just started like, it sounds so cliche or vague, but it's like, I just started to follow my heart. Like, what are the things that interest me? Let me start like experimenting and playing there a little bit. And I've always been super interested in personal growth and development. So I really kind of dove into understanding myself more in a lot of different personal growth and development. So like all kinds of like workshops. I got super into dance. Like I just loved to dance. And I didn't even realize that I loved to dance, because I thought that like you had to be good and know choreography and this and that. And I just like started to move because I love that. And then I ended up like being a facilitator for embodied movement, just because I started having fun and playing with dance. And, it's like, you never know what these things can lead to. So it's like, just start to really pay attention to the things that light you up, the things that make you feel good, no matter how silly they might be, like, and just do them. Another thing that for me has been really instrumental is like having a morning practice. So like having no phone on in the morning, and having fun with like playing and exploring with what is best for you. So I usually do a combination of like movement, journaling, meditation, affirmations, prayer, intentions. You can kind of mix and match. But I found like when I was spending, 30 minutes to like even 2 hours when I was on this sabbatical, like taking that time for myself was so instrumental in just connecting with myself, connecting with my body, with my emotions. How am I feeling today? With my desires? What do I want? A morning ritual, a morning practice has been so instrumental to me. Another thing that I would say is really instrumental is just getting clear on what you want in life. So like having a clear life vision. So looking at your life in like the different categories of like relationship, health and fitness, career, finances, like what do I want my life to look like in this area? Even more importantly, like how do I want to feel? What are the kinds of people I want to be surrounded by, and starting to get clear. And I would write all this down. I would journal it. I did a vision board and Pinterest boards to really like put visuals to some of these things, because it's like one of my mentors says, fuzzy targets don't get hit. Like when you don't know what you want, it's hard to get there. So I knew for me, like something I had very clear was, I had dreams of travel and exploration, and I wanted to be able to work from anywhere. And today I have that, but it's because I knew so clearly, like that was like where I wanted to head. That was my intention and that was my desire. So when we can get more and more clear on the life that we want to create and how we want to live and what's important to us, I find that that just really, really helps to get you there, is getting that clarity. So these things of like self, really connecting to yourself, having a morning practice or ritual, following your heart and your excitement, no matter how small that thing might be, and creating a life vision, like just really knowing what you want your life to look like. And then of course you have to put together a plan, inspired action to get there. It's not just about like visualizing, but I think that those steps for me have been like pivotal.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you mentioned desire, practice, having a morning practice, morning ritual, really sticking to it. And yeah, just taking inspired action, like,
Yeah.
if you're watching, yeah, it's true. You have to take action though, because you can take a break and give yourself spaciousness. So spaciousness doesn't mean just, meditating and like not doing anything, right? It's like, okay, you meditated, you had this download, you had this message, now go take action on it. Like
Yeah.
even creating the summit, I have been resisting the summit for 2 years.
Wow.
There's like a lot of like back end that goes on behind it, but like I had this vision for it for a long time, and like, I kept letting like my fear of not being able to do it get in the way. And like
Yeah.
the vision behind it is like, wow, people who can see all these epic speakers get messages and learn how to be more daring, like, yes, that's what I want. And that was like the bigger picture behind it is what inspired me to do it. And I had to do what it took for me to make this happen, like hire a team, like really like only do it because it's like it's the thing I want to talk about, it's the thing I want to teach.
Yeah, well, beautiful, beautiful, and congrats for being here now and finally making it happen. And yeah, I'm sure that now is the right time.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, for anybody who's watching too, it's like it's whenever it's the right time for you, you'll know.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, just like you knew when you applied to Mind Valley, you're like, what is this place? Wait, hold on, I have to move across the world.
Yeah.
And like even coming to Bali, like you're living in Bali, you live now, like because you lived in Mind Valley or you worked for Mind Valley, I imagine like you had these different experiences in different parts of the world. So like living in Bali now, or living in on the other side of the world from where you were familiar with, I imagine like was also, it took guts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, before we wrap up, do you have any last nuggets of wisdom? Do you have anything you want to share that you didn't get to?
No, I just want to encourage like anyone who's watching to um like to really follow your heart, to take a chance, to take that leap of faith, to trust that things are going to work out. Because in my experience, like when you follow your heart, like it just works out, it just really does. And we all have this capacity to create the life that we want, to create the business that we want. And of course, we have this fear that gets in the way. But it's better to, just take a risk and give it a shot than to have that like feeling inside of you that like, I think many of us, I know I did for a while, and sometimes I still do, like you have this like fear that like I'm not meeting my potential, like I'm not living my purpose, like there's something more, and that there's something more, but it's like the fear kind of holds you back from like really pursuing that. And so I've just really decided, like, I don't want to have regrets of like, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have tried that. Right. And so just like encouraging anyone to really follow your heart, and, it will work out. Like, even if it doesn't work out the way you think, like something, that opening will lead you to another place. I also work with, people, with clients, with female entrepreneurs, to help them in this area of like really getting clear on what is that life vision, and helping them to develop those personal practices of coming back into their hearts and their highest desire. And so, yeah, if you're seeing this, and this is really resonating, and you feel like you would like some support, then I would absolutely love to hear from you.
Yeah. Yeah. And if if you're wondering, like, you had this one idea of what a leader looks like, you have this story of what it means to make money, right?
Mhm.
Like, this is why, I teach vulnerability, and this is why I'm having Tanya on this summit, because she has been vulnerable, she's been real, and she's created from her heart. And that is, what vulnerability is. And that's what makes you a leader. Like, the leader, that I always thought was someone who was like very stiff, and, you know, um, like, looked a certain way and had to be really professional all the
Yeah,
time, or
yeah,
seem really professional, right? And actually,
yeah,
I respect and love the teachers and leaders who are out there being themselves, and
yeah,
making misses, and fucking up, and taking risks, and failing, and trying again, right? And it's
yeah.
horrible to, keep starting over, and, putting yourself out there. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think like when you're really following your heart, and you're following the things that truly light you up and make you happy and inspire you, like you just radiate. Like that just comes through in your energy, right? And so those are the leaders I'm attracted to. Like I'm not like, not the stiff people that are like reading from a script, but like, wow, I feel their passion. Like I love their energy. I want some of what they're having, right? And I feel that that energy is transmitted and comes through when you're in authenticity, when you're in alignment, when you're coming from your heart and your desire and your highest excitement. And so things will just unfold and come to you when you're in that space. I really believe that. And
I
and and you attract clients, customers, fans, followings, audience, whatever it is you're doing, when you're in alignment and authenticity, that's when you're just like, you're on fire.
yeah. Well, thank you so much, Tanya, for taking the time and sharing your gifts, sharing your heart, and being who you are. I
You're
love,
so welcome.
yeah, I love this. And I know that anybody watching this is going to definitely take something away. So if you're
Mhm.
watching, if you're watching the replay, if you're watching live, show us or ask us any questions. Tell us what you're taking away from this interview today. And yeah, I will put Tanya's links and her information in the email and in this on the page. But if you want to share with people how they can find you.
Sure. My website is tanyalopez.com, and I have free resources there for, whether you're a female entrepreneur or you're looking to organize like a magical event and experience. So you can find some of those resources on my website, or you can find me on Instagram as well through the link that Veronica shares.
Amazing. Thank you. All right, Tanya. Thank you so much.
All right, lady. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.